Simon Fowle.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for joining us, gentlemen. Carrying on with asylum backlog and hotel use, the Immigration Minister was clear at the dispatch box he intends to end the use of hotels. But the latest quarterly immigration stats to September of this year show that despite small boat crossings falling, there are still a record high of asylum seekers in hotels, so 56,000 people, I think that is. Can you talk us through your plans to end hotel use?
Yes, certainly. As you say, there are just over 56,000 people in hotels. At the moment, what we have done, as ministers have set out, is committed to close the first 50 hotels by the end of January. We're working very closely with our providers and indeed local authorities in those areas to close those hotels. We are doing that by essentially consolidating the accommodation estate. So, I mean, as we make decisions through the asylum backlog and grant asylum, there are people leaving, and we are then essentially moving people around the estate. So we're doing a number of things. First is growing dispersed accommodation, which is housing essentially in communities. Second is maximising the number of beds we can utilise across the estate, both in dispersed accommodation and in hotel accommodation. And as people then leave, that creates space. We have to consolidate people into a smaller number of hotels. Once we get to the point that we have hotel empty, we have, by announcing 50 ahead of time, we're able to end the contract and therefore close that hotel. The 50 that are announced are the first 50 because, as the Minister has said, it's our intention to close hotels and end the use of hotels over time. So we're working to develop what the next tranche of hotels will be, and when that is prepared, we will move on to the next set of hotels.
That is helpful, thank you. So my understanding is there were nearly 14,000 people who've arrived in the UK since the Legal Migration Act got royal assent. There've been zero inadmissible decisions since that time frame. So how does that marry up with what you've just said? How are we going to be declining the use of hotels when actually we've got more people arriving and we're not sending them anywhere else?
So we're able to reduce the number of hotels for two reasons. The first is that a combination of arrivals going down and decisions going up means we are reducing the demand on our accommodation estate. So overall, at the moment, we are seeing fewer people arrive than are leaving the estate. The second thing that we're doing is increasing both the number of beds we have got available in our estate outside hotels and consolidating beds within hotels so that we can use fewer hotels. And over time, that will enable us to close more hotels. Kind of clearly, over the medium term, the forecasts of arrivals get less uncertain, depend on a number of things which we've talked about already this morning. But therefore, we will need to grow the beds available outside hotels as well, because we will still have demand on our estate at some level.
So just in terms of that, then, you say over the medium term, what are your projections? When can we expect to see no more hotels being used?
So we are still working through projections for the coming year and beyond, because there are large numbers of uncertainties in those. As we've already touched on, small boat arrivals are down a third this year. That is for a number of different reasons, and it's difficult to attach causality with certainty, but the work we've done with Albania, the work we're continuing to do with the French, etc. So how much more we can get from that, and obviously the current uncertainties around the Rwanda and the deterrent that comes from that. So projections for next year are difficult to make. We'll have a range. Once we've got that, we'll match our. Well, this year just gone, we had a central best and worst case. We don't have one for next year that is complete yet. We are working through those projections.
Do you share that with the committee when it's done?
Yeah, I think we articulated our best case last and central case last year.
So when the new work is done, you can share that with the committee.
Yes.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, thank you. And then just moving on to the move-on period. So the Big Issue did a Freedom of Information request recently, and they found that due to the refugee move-on period, the number of refugees becoming homeless has tripled to 1,500 between August and October. That's up 450 from the same period last year. What are your plans to deal with that?
Sorry, can you just...
Yeah, so the move-on period, which is set currently at 56 days, it's
28 days.
Sorry, set at 28 days.
Yes, sorry.
Is driving homelessness amongst the refugee population. What are your plans to address it?
Yeah. So as you say, once we grant asylum to an individual, they have a 28-day period which we notify them of. We do a number of things to support people through that period through some of our partners, such as Migrant Help, to help point people towards how they can access the labour market, support from Department for Work and Pensions, and indeed for housing. We are increasing the data we can share with local authorities to give them better information on people that will be leaving the estate. And we have some Home Office liaison teams who are working with people as they leave hotels to try and point them towards support. Equally, we work very closely with the Department for Levelling Up Housing and Communities, who are responsible for homelessness in the round and fund a huge amount of support for councils to help address homelessness. And through those partnerships, we're trying to help manage the transition.
Can I ask on that though? Why is there a discrepancy between how we treat families in the UK, where we give them 56 days to help them through a risk of homelessness, and only keep it to 28 here, where these are people with far less stable lives, less ability to lean on family and friends and set themselves up? Why is that discrepancy there?
So, I mean, all I can say is that the regulations we've got governing the support we give to asylum seekers require us to give people 28-day notice. We do a lot in that period to try and support people and make sure they have information about the sorts of support they can access when they leave hotels. It is already, as the committee knows, both very expensive and challenging to provide the level of accommodation that we do for asylum seekers, and at some point they have to transition from the Home Office estate into other support they may need from the local authority, or ideally to access the labour market, and that's the work that we are doing. Once they leave our estate, they can access other UK benefits if they've been granted asylum and become part of communities.
But we are layering challenges on some of these people. So by giving them, starting the move-on period when they are granted their status rather than when they receive their biometric documentation, it makes it harder for them to find accommodation. It makes it harder for them to find work. This is a barrier we're putting in their way, which could be changed. Why are we not looking at changing?
So we're doing some things to try and improve this point of transition in terms of making sure people get that information as soon as the decision is made. We're also increasing the amount of information we have available in hotels for those people who are not yet at the end of the process, and move some of that more upstream. Migrant and some of our partners such as Migrant Help are seeking to support those people we've got in our accommodation as early and as much as possible.
Is there a plan to review that policy at some point?
So I don't think we're going to, not the policy around 28 days.
Thank you.
I have questions on another topic, but I know Lee wanted to come in. So.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Thanks, Simon. Hi, guys. Just one question from me. Put foreign offenders aside and Albanians aside, just forget about those numbers. How many people travelling on small boats that's been refused asylum have been sent to a third country or back to their own country over the past 3 years?
I don't think we have.
I think we'll write to the committee with those numbers, Mr. Anderson.
That's staggering. That's actually staggering. Okay, then let's do it for the last year.
I don't have a number for non-Albanian, non-FNOs.
Perhaps they might be able to help you.
Let's do last week then.
Do we have any figures about anything?
Yes.
In the last 6 months, just how many in the last 6 months?
As Simon said, there are charter flights and other ways of doing returns the whole time, constantly, and we can give you whatever timeline period you'd like.
People who are coming here who are being refused asylum, because I'm sure there's a few. How many was sent back last month?
Have you got incoming?
We'll write to you with those numbers, Mr. Anderson.
I'm sorry, Chair, but I find it absolutely staggering that the big boss hasn't got a clue, not just on this question, but nearly every other question we've asked today. Why is that?
We've got that. I think Mr. Ridley's looking for the numbers, and we will send them to you.
Okay, that's me done, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, Simon Fell.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to Home Office expenditure, if I may. Could you provide an update on the Emergency Services Network project?
Yes. So this is the very important project to replace the Airwave contract, which will become technically obsolete at some point in the 2030s. It's been a long-standing programme which this committee has rightly taken a very close interest in, given the amounts of money involved. The long-term savings to the taxpayer will be significant, the order of about £200 million per year. So the £450 million annual cost will reduce to £250 million once we turn off Airwave. The date by which we can turn off Airwave has been delayed, again, as you know, as a result of the Competition and Markets Authority declaring supernormal profits that Motorola were making. Motorola are now appealing against that decision, but on the assumption that the Motorola loses that appeal, the programme will have saved the taxpayer £1.1 billion as a result of that CMA investigation.
Good news all round then.
So it's good news in terms of money. It's bad news in terms of a bit longer to wait before the police and the other emergency services get the new kit. But I think 95% of the masts for the new system, the emergency services mobile communications program, has already been built, and we are cracking on with delivery of the parts of the program that do not require Motorola, because obviously there are lots of different aspects of this program, and we will continue to. I write to the Public Accounts Committee, I think quarterly, specifically on this program, given the amounts of money involved and the close interest that you and they take, and I will continue to do that.
Thank you. And you wrote to us last year and you said it would take about 12 months to find a new supplier.
Yeah.
How's that going?
Very well.
Excellent. Could you give us a little bit more than that?
I mean, I can't announce yet who the new supplier will be, but in the normal way, we will ensure that the committee know about that announcement.
And could you give us an estimate as to when we might hear something on that?
I mean, we're on track with that with that stage of the re-procurement, and I'll update you as soon as I can.
Thank you. So there was a write-off of 135 million as a consequence of Motorola leaving the programme. Can we expect more write-offs to come?
I mean, I'm not anticipating more write-offs at this stage. We have been working hard with Motorola and with other commercial partners to ensure that the vast majority of the investments that Motorola have made will be used in the future emergency services network. So I cannot give an absolute guarantee, but I can assure you that the Home Office team running this programme are working very hard to make maximum use of the existing investments.
Thank you. So the baseline cost of the programme, I believe now, is 11.3 billion. Is that a figure you recognise?
That includes all of the running costs until, I think, 2035, if I remember correctly. So that's why it's such a big number. But as I say, the purpose of this programme is to replace a technology which will go obsolete, and at the same time to save the taxpayer money. So we will be saving. We're still on track to save £200 million per year.
And I appreciate that, but the business case signed off by the Cabinet Office in 2015 put it at 5.2 billion. So it's more than doubled in projected costs.
I think that might be because of the running costs were also extending for longer.
Okay.
So in other words, the difference is not a waste of money. We're just measuring a different thing. We're measuring a service which is going longer into the future than we had previously accounted for.
I'm a very simple man. I look at one figure that has a projected cost and the figure of where we are now, and it's more than double that. But let's put that to one side. So if we are looking at that increase, what's the knock-on effect to other teams within the department? Because you've got to find this money from somewhere.
Absolutely. So we manage our portfolio of programs, of which this is one. This is one of the largest. We have funding specifically from the Treasury earmarked for this program, and indeed for all of the others. And we make sure that when there is a saving to the taxpayers, there will be if the CMA appeal goes the way that we hope and expect, then we, the Home Office, won't be keeping all of that money, but the Exchequer will benefit from that. And similarly, if we have overruns that require additional funding, then we make that case to the Treasury. So we are able to continue the essential work of the other programmes in the Home Office's portfolio.
Thank you. And then last question for me, Chair. So just on lessons learned, so the NAO came out with a really helpful report which essentially said that through the Motorola part of this programme, you're not using any of the critical systems or software that they produced, and it won't use any of their work when the ESN goes live. What does a lessons learned report look like for you from this?
I mean, I think it's a very good question, and one that I'm obviously very attuned to and spend a lot of time on in the Home Office, working closely with this programme. I think the lesson that we've already learnt is that you've got to have the users inside the programme. So the SRO for this programme is actually a former chief from policing. So that's lesson one. Lesson two is that we need absolute clarity between the Home Office and policing on who does what. The national capabilities that are required for policing across the whole country need to be done once and only once. That doesn't mean necessarily that the Home Office is the right place to do all of them. But it does mean that if you have a confederation of 43 police forces, as we do across England and Wales, that you need some mechanism of prioritising and ensuring that those national capabilities are met. And then the third lesson for me personally is that it is not always the best place to be at the cutting edge of technology if you are a government. Not always. Sometimes it should be. On this sort of issue, there are some benefits in going quickly, but not being at the absolute cutting edge of technology. Because if you are at that edge, then you end up being, if you like, buffeted by all the winds of where that technology goes. And with the benefit of hindsight, it might have been better at the very beginning of this program several years ago to wait a bit and to use the existing Airwave program for a bit longer, which, as it happens, is what we've ended up doing anyway because of the delays. And as the technology improves, then you can get the benefit of that technology. So that's not a lesson that will always apply, I don't think, but I think it does in this case.
Can I just ask, so you're going through this reset now. We are waiting with bated breath on the announcement for who the next supplier will be. The lessons in terms of getting users into the tent and helping design that out, are you applying that?
Absolutely. So as I hope I made clear earlier, but let me repeat it, we're not just twiddling our thumbs waiting for this CMA issue to be resolved and then for the re-procurement to go ahead. We're doing a lot of delivery on the other parts of the program. I think so. The building of the masts is one example. The testing of the kit so that it works in the underground, up in the air, on rural roads where at the moment the current system does not work. All those sorts of issues are continuing to be in delivery mode. There is an inevitability about this program. It will get there in the end. It will just be later than originally anticipated, and that has added, obviously, to the timeline, but actually reduced the total cost.